Most people believe that if they raise their voice, they will be respected, that the one who talks the most and the loudest will always control the room. But this belief is an illusion. Respect does not come from noise. It comes from something deeper, something harder to fake. Volume often hides insecurity. It is the mask worn by people who fear they are not being taken seriously. They think if they shout louder than others, they will win. But what they really show is that they cannot command attention without force. True strength is calm, and calm does not need to scream. When someone speaks loudly to prove themselves, the room listens out of irritation or fear, not out of genuine respect, and that difference matters. Because respect that comes from fear fades the moment you leave, but respect that comes from energy remains even in silence. You have probably seen this in action. In classrooms, meetings, or family arguments, there is often one person who raises their tone, talks over others, fills every gap with words. At first, they seem dominant, but watch the faces of the people around them. The eyes drift, the body language closes off, the audience grows tired. Loudness is exhausting. Now look at the quiet one in the corner, who says nothing until the right moment, who does not rush to interrupt. When they finally speak, the room listens, not because of volume, but because of presence. Their words carry more weight precisely because they did not waste them on noise. This is the illusion of loudness, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The loud person confuses attention with respect. Attention can be won by shouting, by bragging, by filling space, but respect is different. Respect is earned by how you carry yourself when you are not talking, how you hold your ground without explanation, how you make others lean in instead of pushing yourself on them. Noise is easy. Energy is rare. Energy is the calm in your eyes, the steadiness of your tone, the silence you allow between sentences. People lean into that because it feels like power, and power is what earns respect. Think of the leaders who made history. They were not always the loudest. They were the ones who could stand still while chaos raged, the ones whose quiet voice could calm storms, the ones who did not need to demand attention because people gave it to them willingly. Loudness is often a plea for validation, while silence is a declaration of self-trust. Loudness begs to be noticed, silence dares you to ignore it, and that dare is what people cannot resist. If you rely on volume to be respected, you will always need to shout louder tomorrow. But if you learn to carry yourself with quiet strength, your presence alone will command more than words ever could. Respect comes not from how loud you speak, but from how deeply people feel your energy when you say almost nothing. When you walk into a room, people feel you before they hear you, and that feeling is what sets the tone. Respect is not born from how loud you speak or how many words you throw around. It begins with the invisible weight of your presence. Some people walk in and immediately pull attention without saying a word, while others talk endlessly and still go unnoticed. The difference is not volume, it is energy. Energy is the calm assurance in your body, the steadiness of your movements, the way you occupy space without apology. People notice these signals on a level deeper than thought, and their respect rises or falls before you even open your mouth. Think about the people you have admired in your life, maybe a mentor, a teacher, or a leader. What impressed you first was not their voice, but the atmosphere they carried. They did not need to rush or demand. They walked in, and everyone adjusted to them. That is energy bending the room. It is not mystical or magical, it is human psychology. People sense confidence through posture, eye contact, pace, and calm. When those are in place, the mind automatically assumes power, and where the mind sees power, respect follows. Most people chase respect by trying to be louder, trying to convince, trying to dominate through words. But the louder you push, the more obvious it becomes that you are trying. Effort destroys authority because true authority does not need to try. The energy that bends rooms comes from not needing to prove yourself. It comes from the quiet certainty that you do not have to win anyone over because you are already complete. That certainty leaks into how you stand, how you pause, how you breathe, and people feel it long before they can explain it. There is a reason silence in the right hands is more powerful than speeches. When you pause before answering, the air grows heavier, people lean in. The value of your words multiplies. Your silence forces them to measure you, and that measuring is where respect is built. Energy is not noise, energy is control of tempo. If you rush, you follow the pace of others. If you remain calm, you make them follow yours. Whoever sets the tempo controls the frame, and whoever controls the frame commands the respect of the room. The truth is, people do not remember most of what you say. They remember how they felt around you. Did they feel calm? Did they feel nervous? Did they feel watched? Did they feel lifted? Your energy answers that question. If you want respect, stop focusing on volume and start mastering the atmosphere you carry. Respect is not demanded, it is drawn, and it is drawn by the gravity of someone who knows who they are without needing to explain. Walk into any space with that gravity, and the room bends not because of what you said, but because of who you were before you said anything. Silence has a way of making people uncomfortable because most are trained to fill empty space with words. They fear pauses, they fear stillness, they fear what is not being said. When you hold silence instead of rushing to answer or explain, you create an invisible weight that shifts the entire balance of the moment. People expect you to react quickly. They expect you to justify yourself. They expect you to smooth over tension. But when you refuse to give them that, the pressure does not disappear. It simply moves, and it moves onto them. Now they are the ones who feel exposed. Now they are the ones scrambling for comfort. And suddenly the control of the situation belongs to you. Think about any argument you have seen. The louder person often believes they are winning. But when the other person holds silence, when they simply stare or sit back without moving, the one who is shouting begins to lose confidence. Their words echo into the quiet and they start to hear themselves. They start to wonder if they are overreacting. They start to feel foolish. This is why silence shakes people. It forces them to confront their own noise. Instead of bouncing off your defenses, their words hang heavy in the air and reflect back at them. What they wanted was resistance to push against. What they find is emptiness. And emptiness is unbearable because it makes their performance look unnecessary. Silence is not passive, it is active power. It says without words that you cannot be forced, you cannot be rushed, you cannot be dragged into someone else's frame. People are unnerved by this because they live in reaction. They survive on pulling emotions out of others. So when you give them none, they feel invisible. They feel weak, they feel unimportant. And that feeling creates doubt. Doubt about their position, doubt about their words, doubt about themselves. Respect does not always come from what you say. Sometimes it comes from what you refuse to say. In meetings or conversations, try noticing this. When someone challenges you, pause. Do not jump in, do not over-explain, just breathe and let the silence stretch. Watch how others begin to shift in their seats, how their eyes move, how they look for validation, how they speak again to fill the gap. You have flipped the script without lifting a finger. Instead of being the one under attack, you have made them defend their own words. That is the hidden power of silence. It turns the mirror back on the speaker. The reason silence shakes people is because it removes the game they know how to play. Most know how to argue, most know how to shout, most know how to defend, but few know how to sit still under pressure. When you master that, you stand out instantly. You stop looking desperate, you start looking untouchable. Because silence in the right hands is not absence, it is presence, and presence without effort will always command more respect than noise. Stillness is often misunderstood because people confuse movement with progress and noise with influence. But the truth is that stillness is not weakness, it is armor. When you sit calm while others fidget, when your breathing is even, while theirs is rushed, when your presence is steady while theirs is scattered, you are the one who controls the tempo, and the one who controls the tempo controls the frame. People sense stability on an instinctive level. They know when someone is unmoved, and it unsettles them because most live in constant reaction. They expect you to mirror their speed, to match their tone, to reflect their tension, but when you do not, they lose balance. Imagine a heated meeting where voices are raised, hands wave, and energy is chaotic. The natural pull is to join the storm, to raise your tone to be heard, to speed up so you are not left behind. But the person who remains still does something more powerful. They do not fight for space, they create it. By staying calm, they force the room to slow down to their rhythm. Every eye drifts toward them, waiting to see when they will move, when they will speak, and the longer they wait, the more their power grows. Stillness bends the attention of others without effort, because human beings are wired to seek leadership in moments of disorder. Stillness also communicates mastery of self, and mastery of self is the foundation of respect. If you cannot govern your own body and voice, why should anyone trust you to govern anything else? The leader who can hold still under attack sends a clear signal: I am not shaken, I am not moved, I decide the pace here. This quiet control turns accusations into echoes and criticism into background noise, because nothing weakens an attack more than the target who does not flinch. In personal life, this is just as true. When arguments rise, when tempers flare, when someone tries to pull you into their storm, your stillness is the shield that denies them control. You do not have to meet anger with anger. You do not have to meet noise with noise. You can let their energy break against your calm. They will often tire themselves out, realize how emotional they look, and begin to shrink while you remain unbothered. That is the hidden power of stillness. It does not compete, it outlasts. Stillness is not about being passive, it is about being deliberate. Every movement you do make carries more weight because it is rare. Every word you speak lands heavier because it is not rushed. Every decision you show feels decisive because it was not born of panic. Most people are slaves to tempo, but the one who slows the rhythm, the one who holds their ground, becomes the center of gravity. Respect flows to that person naturally because everyone feels that strength. Stillness is not absence of power, it is the purest form of it. And those who master it never have to chase respect, they draw it without asking. The louder someone tries to prove themselves, the more they reveal their own cracks, because true confidence never needs to shout. When a person fills every pause with explanations, when they talk faster and louder, hoping the room will finally believe them, what they really show is desperation. You do not have to call it out, you do not have to match their volume, you simply hold your ground in silence, and let their noise reveal what it truly is, an attempt to cover weakness. People around them feel it too, because noise may grab attention, but it does not hold respect. Respect flows to the one who radiates quiet power, the one who does not waste words chasing validation. In any setting, you will notice this pattern. The insecure boss who repeats himself, the anxious friend who insists you misunderstood, the competitor who brags too often. They believe their noise is strength, but to everyone watching it, feels like overcompensation. Then there is the other type, the person who listens, who pauses, who waits, who only speaks when necessary. This person might not say much, but when they do, people stop talking. The silence before their words builds weight, and the few things they say carry more impact than all the noise before them. By saying less, they make every word worth more. By remaining calm, they turn the loud one into their own evidence. Noise feeds on response. The louder someone gets, the more they hope you will push back, because that push validates their performance. If you stay silent, if you give them nothing, their noise echoes into emptiness. They hear their own voice bouncing back at them and slowly begin to look unstable. They start repeating themselves, they try new angles, they raise their tone even higher. And with every attempt, the room sees them for what they are, someone desperate for control they do not have. Meanwhile, your silence stands as proof that you are not rattled. That contrast makes you untouchable, because power is not in the words, it is in the composure. Think of silence as a mirror. When you do not react, you force others to face themselves. Their bragging sounds hollow, their anger sounds childish, their accusations sound exaggerated. You do not argue, you do not defend, you do not explain, and that lack of movement makes their noise louder than they wanted it to be. They thought they were attacking you, but they only exposed themselves. That is why silence works, because it strips away the performance and leaves their insecurity naked in front of everyone. The real secret is that noise cannot beat calm, it only beats more noise. But when calm meets noise, calm always wins, because it does not play the same game. You do not need to lift a finger, you do not need to raise your tone, you simply need to let them spend their energy while you keep yours intact. In the end, everyone remembers who stayed composed, not who shouted the most. Silence is more than protection, it is reflection. When you choose not to rise to defend yourself or argue back, you create a space where the other person's own doubts start to echo louder than anything you could say. People are always watching, not just listening to the words being exchanged, but measuring who holds their ground. When someone attacks and you do not respond, their words no longer land on you. They bounce back onto them. Suddenly, they look like the one who is emotional, unstable, or insecure, and you, by doing nothing, look untouchable. This is what makes silence such a powerful mirror. It does not hide you, it exposes them. When you resist the urge to explain or fight, you force the attacker to hear themselves without interruption. And most of the time, what they hear makes them weaker. The longer they push without a reaction, the more obvious it becomes to everyone around that they are chasing validation. They wanted you to meet them on their level, but when you refuse, they are left swinging at shadows, and every swing makes them look smaller. The mirror effect works because people project. They take their own insecurities and place them on others. When someone calls you arrogant or cold, what they often reveal is their discomfort with confidence or composure. If you argue back, you confirm their frame and play their game, but if you remain still, the accusation reflects. Now the crowd wonders why the accuser is so bothered, why they need to prove something, why they are so desperate for a reaction. The more they speak, the less powerful they appear. The less you speak, the stronger you become. Think about how uncomfortable people get when you do not explain yourself. In conversations, in meetings, even in relationships, silence after a jab or a challenge creates a tension that the other side feels more than you do. They fill it with nervous laughter, extra words, repeated points, or defensive tones, and in doing so they reveal themselves. You did not accuse them, yet they look accused. You did not expose them, yet they look exposed. That is the mirror effect at work. The key is not to use silence as avoidance, but as control. Your calm says you are not shaken. Your quiet says you are not desperate. Your stillness says you are above the noise. This forces people to question their own approach. They start to think maybe they went too far. Maybe they look petty. Maybe they revealed too much. And once doubt enters their mind, the power shifts to you. Respect does not come from winning every argument. It comes from mastering the frame so deeply that you do not need to argue at all. The mirror effect ensures that those who try to undermine you end up undermining themselves. By refusing to react, you let their own energy collapse in on them, and you stand untouched, calm, and untouchable in the eyes of everyone watching. When you finally choose to speak after holding your silence, your words must not come as explanations or defenses, they must arrive as conclusions. The strongest statements are never long, they are short and final. They carry weight because they leave no room for argument. People respect words that feel like decisions, not words that sound like reactions. Most people drain their power by talking too much, by over-explaining, by repeating themselves in the hope that clarity will earn them respect. But clarity is not the same as power. Power comes from brevity, from the sense that you do not need to convince anyone because what you said already stands on its own. Think of the way certain leaders or figures can silence an entire room with one line. They do not ramble, they do not justify, they deliver a few words that sound like the end of the discussion. Phrases like, "Noted," "Time will tell," or "That is how it is." These are not defenses, they are closures. They stop the conversation instead of feeding it. They place the weight back on others to respond, and most of the time they cannot. Short words with heavy weight leave people thinking long after you have stopped speaking, because the silence after them feels intentional, not empty. Long explanations often sound like insecurity. The more you explain, the more it seems like you are trying to be believed. But when you keep your response sharp and brief, people sense that you do not need belief. You already stand secure. That security is magnetic. It makes others second-guess their challenge, and it makes your presence feel larger than your words. Short words travel farther because they echo in the mind, while long speeches dissolve the moment they end. There is also a hidden strategy in speaking less. When you speak briefly, people have to interpret you, they have to think, they have to fill in the blanks. And in doing so, they often give your words more meaning than you even intended. That is the advantage of brevity. It creates space for imagination, and imagination always makes things bigger. Your silence paired with short, decisive words turns into mystery, and mystery is power, because people cannot pin you down. The next time someone tries to provoke you, instead of explaining yourself, try ending it with a line that closes the door. If they call you arrogant, you can say confidence bothers the insecure. If they call you fake, you can say everyone says that when they stop getting what they want. If they doubt your idea, you can say time will tell. Each line ends the conversation without argument. Each line puts the weight back on them. Each line shows that you will not play defense. That is how words become weapons instead of shields. Respect comes not from how much you say, but from how heavy your words feel when you finally choose to use them. Short, sharp, decisive words make people pause, they make people listen, and they remind everyone in the room that power does not explain itself. It defines itself. Building an aura of respect is not about a single moment of silence or one calm response. It is about how you carry yourself every day. People can sense patterns. They notice if your calm is an act or if it is natural. They know if your confidence is rehearsed or if it is real. An aura is something you build slowly, through consistent discipline, through how you hold your body, how you breathe, how you react to pressure. It is not about being silent once in a while. It is about becoming the kind of person who naturally radiates composure. Calm posture, steady eyes, relaxed presence. These are the building blocks that turn into an invisible force people feel when you enter a room. When you sit with your shoulders relaxed, when your breathing is slow and measured, when your eyes are steady and not darting, you communicate something without words. You tell the world you are not easily shaken. You tell them you trust yourself. You tell them you will not be rushed into anyone else's storm. This quiet energy is powerful because most people are the opposite. They slump when tired. They fidget when nervous. They rush their words when anxious. When you stand out as calm and deliberate, people respect you without even knowing why. This is why training matters. Aura is not built in a single situation. It is built in daily habits. How you walk into a room, how you shake a hand, how you pause before answering. All of these moments teach others how to treat you. If you practice calm in small interactions, it becomes natural in larger ones. If you train stillness when nothing is at stake, it will protect you when everything is. Respect is not won in the big battles. It is accumulated in the small gestures that shape your image over time. The aura of composure is also about energy you do not waste. People who explain too much, defend too often, or rush to fill silence drain themselves. But when you conserve your energy, when you choose carefully what to say and what to ignore, you build a sense of mystery. People start to believe that if you speak less, it must be because you know more. They begin to project strength onto you, even when you are simply quiet. And once they see you as strong, they treat you as strong, which reinforces the respect you already command. It is easy to think respect comes from achievements, from titles, from what you can show. But aura works differently. It comes from what others feel in your presence. If they feel calm, if they feel watched, if they feel measured, they respect you, even if they cannot explain why. Building this aura takes time and discipline, but once you have it, you do not need to prove yourself. Your energy speaks before you do, and people listen not because you ask them to, but because they cannot help it. True authority is not about volume, it is about gravity. The strongest people do not shout to be heard, they do not demand attention, they do not defend themselves against every jab or every doubt. They define the moment by how they carry themselves, by how they set the tone, by how they make others adjust to their pace. When your silence carries more weight than the words of those around you, you have crossed into something greater than confidence. You have entered the realm of authority. Authority is not given, it is not begged for, it is not granted by titles or positions, it is felt. And when it is real, people lean toward you without being told. The journey to this point begins with self-control. At first you learn to hold silence, to resist the pull of explanation, to stay calm when provoked. Then you learn to shape silence into presence, to make people feel your energy without effort. Slowly your words grow sharper, not longer. You begin to speak in decisions instead of reactions. With time your stillness becomes natural, your aura becomes undeniable, and your presence shifts from someone asking for respect to someone who commands it. This is the evolution to authority, the moment you no longer chase approval because respect now chases you. Authority is not about proving you are right. It is about making others feel that questioning you is a risk. When you reach this stage, people pause before they challenge you. not because you are feared like a tyrant, but because your calm makes them second-guess their own judgment. You bend the frame without raising your voice. You shift the room without lifting your hand. And that invisible control is what separates the respected from the ordinary. Authority is not noise. It is weight. And people always bow to weight they cannot move. This evolution also changes how others defend you. When you no longer defend yourself, people start doing it for you. They sense your silence, they sense your restraint, and they feel compelled to speak on your behalf. They call out the unfairness, they correct the misjudgments, they protect your name without you asking. And that is the highest form of power. When others fight to uphold your respect because they believe in the image you have built, you are no longer in the crowd trying to hold your ground. You are above it, untouchable, shaping the tempo from a distance. The truth is that most will never reach this stage because they cannot let go of the urge to be understood. They confuse clarity with control, and they waste energy explaining themselves to people who will never be satisfied. But those who evolve beyond that need, those who accept that silence is stronger than defense, rise to another level. They embody authority not by acting, but by being. And when you become that person, when your calm presence defines the room, respect does not just follow you, it chases you, because authority once earned is authority that no one can ignore. Maybe this video helped you see yourself, or someone you know in a different way. Feel free to let us know via a like or in the comments. And if you want more wisdom and guidance in becoming a better version of yourself, subscribe now. This is the moment to start becoming the person you really want to be.